Hello everyone out there, and thank you for tuning in. This is my very first video that I am creating for YouTube. My name is Carol, and my channel is called Crafted by Carol, and I hope that this is one of many videos that I post. I'm going to be working on making a wire fairy crown, and that's why I have my metal ring here, my brass ring. This is a 3-inch ring, okay, and what I did is I wrapped it. I have some wire. I have some ribbon here. This is a really pretty blue. Now with this ring here is, you can leave it gold if that's the color you want to work with. You can also spray paint it. So if you want to spray paint it pink or black or silver or whatever color, it's up to you. I want it to have it be this bluish because I'm going to be using greens and blues in this particular crown. So I used just a satin picot edge ribbon, whatever you've got. And I did use hot glue to adhere it. Let me show you the next one here. I started this, and this is where it's wrapped. Okay, and I started with the wire. I'm going to show you some of the supplies that I'm going to be using, and hopefully that you can see this. It's called Craft Designer Permanently Colored Copper Wire, and this is in a 26 gauge. Now I'm using 26 gauge. I did actually make a crown where I used a 22 gauge, and the wire was thicker, and it was a little tougher to twist, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we do the twisting here in a minute. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be using are some beads, and these are some glass e-beads that I picked up at Walmart. And the next one, and this is going to be a little hard to see because it's white and really sparkly, is a check bead that I purchased at Joann's, and it's white and it's got a little bit of an aurora borealis going in here. And then just to give it a little more bling at the end, I'm going to be using this bead that I got at Joann's. I also have these that are a little harder, again with the shiny, it's hard to get without having the glare. These are some blingy beads that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. So we're going to get started here. As I said, I have the brass ring here, okay, and I did wrap it already with the wire, or the ribbon I should say. Okay, we got the ribbon going here. And then I took my wire, and this part here that's sticking up, now I am sure that people who make crowns for a living, and that there are technical terms for all the different parts. Okay, so I don't know what the technical term is for the part that goes up and swoops and down, all that, but I'm going to call this the spire. Okay, we're going to have spires and we're going to have peaks, or spires and valleys, and the valley is just going to be this distance that's from one spire to another. Okay, and what I did, and we're going to get some of our beads out here. All right, just sprinkle a few out there. Okay, we're going to use 3 beads at a time, and you're going to take the end of your wire, and I use roughly a 3 to 4 foot piece of wire. You can go shorter. I wouldn't go longer. It does tend to kink up a little bit. Well, that's interesting. I actually have a knot in the wire. My goodness, how did I do that? Okay, I'm going to see if I can't get this unknotted. I may have to actually get cut, and I think I'm going to have to cut it. Okay. Alright, I'm going to cut it. Oh, and another thing you'll need is a pair of scissors. I wouldn't use my good scissors. You don't want to cut wire with good scissors. Alright, so I cut my wire, but that's okay because we can always get another piece and add it. Alright, so I made the one spire, and it's roughly, I would say, 3 to 3.5 inches long. That's about as long as you want to get on this. Because as you go and more you're twisting, the greater the possibility is that the wire will snap. And I have had that happen. It is fixable. You can kind of incorporate the whole thing into the design, but we don't want that to happen very often. All right, so take the end of your wire here, okay, and you're going to put 3 beads on it. These e-beads are about as big as I would go with the gauge of this wire. Okay, so I have 3 beads on there. All right, and you're going to take them down. Here we go. We have the distance here, okay, and I have usually between each spire I will do about a 1/2 inch to 3/4, and we're going to be going around a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times, so we're going to be making spires and adding things on as we go. So you want to go up to your height, and this time I'm going to go maybe half, so it's about an inch and 3/4, and you're going to fold the wire over, okay, and you're going to create a little loop. There we go. Put your thumb there to keep the beads in place, and then just twist. And you're just going to keep twisting until you wrap the wire around and create the other spire. Okay, and you're going to twist it all the way back down to the ring that we're attached to. Okay, so now I've created the second spire. okay? And we can see there's a little bit of distance, you know, about, like I said, half an inch, maybe not quite that much. We're going to take the other wire that we've just got done twisting, and we're just going to wrap it around our ring a little bit just to help secure it, okay? All right, now as you can see, I don't have a lot of wire left because I had to cut it, but I think we can get 1 or 2 more spires out of this. And again, we're going to put 3 beads. How many times can I use the wrong word to describe something? We shall see. All right, so this time I'm going to make it, we want to have a little more distance between the two things there, so I'm going to wrap it a little more. Okay, this time it's going to be a shorter one. All right, so we've got the 2, and we're going to go up maybe about halfway again, so that's about a little over an inch. Fold it over and twist. Okay, and then twist it down. Okay, this is actually working pretty good. And I have to say that normally I would work with like a 3 to 4 inch piece of wire, but I actually think I'm going to start trying shorter pieces and maybe go to 2 feet. I seem to have less issue with it getting caught up on itself. I'm not getting all tangled. Okay, so now we have 3 of our spires, okay, and we're starting to form it. So the next one I would probably go a little higher. I wouldn't go as high as this one, but you know, it's going to be pretty random. Like I said, I'm going to go around the ring a couple of times. All right, so we're going to just attach this to our ring. Here we go. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring the wire around. Oops, here. All right, it's kind of flopping around a little bit. And I'm going to twist it to the other side of the wire just to help it to be better adhered, okay? Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing there. I went back up is what I did, all right? And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to wrap it around my ring. And our 4th one, which ended up surprisingly being longer than the first one. I'm not really sure how I got to that point, but oh well, it's the randomness of the whole thing, okay? So I'm going to keep going. All right, so what I've done is I've gone all the way around the circle, around the metal ring, okay? I've created all these different spires. Now, if you wanted to at this point, you could stop making the spires and go to the next step. I want to have a few more, so I'm actually going to go around the ring 1 more time. What I found as I was doing this is that going with about a 2-foot piece of wire really does seem to be about the optimal length. I'm not kinking it up on myself. I'm not having it twist around things. It just seems to be a more workable length. Okay, so we're going to wrap it around. Okay. All right, things are starting to come together here, and it's going to get a little trickier to add things in because, you know, we're adding more in, and space is getting a little more limited, but just push things out of the way, keep working. From here, I'm just going to keep adding the beads and making more spires, and I'm going to go around 1 more time. So what I've done is I've gone around it twice, and I've created all of my spires, and as you can see, they're different heights. Some of them are a little long. The longer ones are a little tougher to twist, but just take your time, you'll get it done. I've gotten to the end of my 2nd round, and I've taken a look, and I've decided that I'm happy with the amount of spires that I have on here. I could add more if I wanted to, but I think this is plenty. So before we go to the next step, take a moment and look and see if you want to add any more in. Okay, it's really up to you. And I just want to take a moment here to say that this is not, I don't consider this a child's crown. I would not make this for a child. I would not have a child use this or play with it as a toy or anything like that. It's just too easy for the wire to be broken, the beads, you know, become a choking hazard. So if you're going to make this like for a child to wear, maybe at a party or for pictures or something like that, just make sure you supervise. Next step that we're going to do is, because right now you can kind of see that the spires are all kind of just going every which way, and that's one way to go. If that's the look you're happy with and you want to end it right there and it just be really random and just kind of, you know, flowing, that's a good thing to do. You can just stop right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to do another step, and probably another one after that. I'm going to take my white crystal type beads, and these are smaller, so we're going to pour a few out. All right, we can see them there. And what I'm going to do here, and my intent is I'm going to take my wire that I have here and I'm going to weave it around the spires. And I don't want to pull it too tight because I don't want to, like, kink, get all the spires to cluster up here. I want to just give them a little where they're attached to each other, so it gives a little more form, a little more stability, and it will add a little bling into it. Okay, so we're going to take our wire and we're just going to wind it around one of the spires, however you want to do this. Okay, we brought it up a little bit. I'm going to add a bead. Now you're going to want to add one bead at a time, one or two at a time, depending on how much bling you want to put in there. You don't want to like bead them all at once because the wire is going to be flying all around the place, and then you're going to have beads going everywhere. And but I did put 3 of these little ones on here, and I have wound it around this spire here that's behind my fingers. So I'm going to take it, and this time, I think I just lost a bead. Let me get one more back on there. See what I told you? And that's just using a short piece of wire. Alright, so we're going to take it, and you want the beads to kind of be in the middle. Well, actually it's however you want them to be. I'm going to take my wire over to the next one, and I'm going to wind it around. And so now these beads are being used to accent. Again, don't pull too tight. You don't want the spires to get like, pulled into each other. This is just to add a little stability. All right, so we're going to keep going to the next spire. And this time it's down. So we're going to take the wire and go down. And I'm going to go just under the cluster of beads right here. Okay, and I'm going to wind my wire around gently. When you're doing this, it's always about being gentle. Okay, oops, there we go. All right, and I'm going to add 3 beads on again. So you might be wondering, well, what would I do with this crown? Well, on its own, it's just fun to look at. So you can just use it as an accent piece, on a shelf or your vanity table in a bathroom, pretty much wherever you'd want. Okay, and then we're going to bring it over to this one. And again, like I said, you just want to be really loose with it. Don't want to be tight. Don't want to bring those spires in too much. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see here where the wire is coming along. And I'm going to do this all the way around the crown, and I'm probably going to go around 2 or 3 times. So you're going to get quite a, I guess, a web working here of the interconnecting wire. So going back to, well, what would you use this for? I think it would be really pretty just to use on its own, to have as a decor piece. You can use it, I would think it could be attached to a headband. I would think a clip probably wouldn't work, but a headband, a tiara type band, that kind of thing. So if you wanted to wear it in your, on your head, I think it might be pretty if you're having a fairy themed wedding. And you wanted to do that, a party where you want to be a fairy. You could also use it on dolls. I like to make fairy dolls. I buy dolls at thrift stores, and I reuse them. And so I'm going to actually be doing some of those as I go along here, and hopefully I'll get to share that with you, and you'll see what I mean. Okay. So I've come to the end of my wire, and I'm going to have to add another piece. And again, it's a simple thing. You just cut another piece, wrap it around. Now I actually have some leaf beads, and I need to find them because I might add some leaf beads, and it gives it an even more of a woodland fairy-ish look. Alright, so what I've done is I've gone around about 3 times, adding in the crystal beads that you can kind of see, and you can see the wire that's in between connecting. And the thing with this is it's probably one of the more time-consuming processes of making this crown, but you want to take your time. Don't pull too tightly on the wires that are in between the spires. You want it to be loose, but not too loose, because part of it is to add stability and part of it is to add the bling. So just kind of go and loop and come around and loop and add on pieces of wire as you need to. Now I'm going to move to the next phase, which is to add the bling. And the bling here in that case is this one that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. There's some sparkly little beads here. So we're going to go with another piece of wire and find the end here so I can wrap it around. Okay, I did. So far I haven't lost the end, and that's a good thing. Okay, now I got to take a look at this because I think the hole, oh, it does go through the back. You can kind of see. Yeah, there's the bead. Very blingy, very shiny, hard to see, but it is on my wire. Okay, before I put the bead on though, I'm going to attach the wire. I think that's an important step to do, and that way I know that my wire is on here and it's secure. Okay, alright, so this is where we're going to add in a little more bling. And let's see how this is going to go. Alright. Again, putting just one at a time on the wire. You don't want to overdo it. Okay. So we want to make sure that we get this secured. And I know it's really hard to see, but the bead is actually right there under my finger. Okay. And so we're just going to wrap it around the wire here, because I want these to pretty much stay in place. I don't want these to float around. The other beads, the whitish beads that I used, they're kind of free floating a little bit, and that's okay. But because this one is only blingy on one side, I want to make sure that the blingy is staying out front as much as possible. Okay, so that is doing pretty good. I've wrapped it around a few times. Like I said, I want this piece to be secure. Okay, how's that going? Let's take a look here. Okay, so it moves a little bit. You can see that it will move a little bit, but the blingy part, and again, I know it's hard to see, is actually facing front, and that's what I want. Ooh, I think I like that. That would catch the light really nicely. Alright, so I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to again go around, wrapping my wire around, pulling it through, and I know it can get a little tricky at this point because, you know, you're working with a lot of spaces and things for the wire to get caught on, but if you take your time, it really will come out okay. Alright, so I'm going to take some time to add these in, and then I will show you what I've got. Alright, I have added in all the bling beads that I had. Kind of hard to see, but there's one there, and they're all around. I kind of tried to space them. I didn't put any too near the bottom. I'm going around the bottom here because I am going to be adding in some trim. Now I have the you know, the plastic trim that's by the yard that's kind of, you know, it looks like faux gems. I like that. But before I do that, I was talking about my leaf beads that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. Okay, and these were $3.99 a strand. And kind of get those up here so we can see. Hard to tell at the moment, but they are leaves. Okay, they're very green. And what I'm finding as I'm doing this, okay, that as I'm going around and around and around and around, that it's giving a little more body to the crown, so it's a little stronger. Okay, it's still airy, still very open, but it's stronger. But what I have discovered is that the wire, even though the package says it's permanently colored, I'm not really sure what they mean by that, because I am starting to see that some of the color is coming off, especially as I went through the bling beads. I guess it kind of started scraping it a little bit. Now underneath the color it's silver, so for this particular crown I'm okay with that because I am using a lot of the silver accents, the bling and then the whitish beads and all that, so the silver is actually working for me on this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the same thing, one bead at a time, using the wire. I'm going to go around and I'm going to place the leaf beads. Okay, so I'm going to get started with that. I'll be back once I've added them. Alright, so I ended up getting the leaf beads on, and you can see them here, the green ones. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm not putting this on yet. I'm going to put this on at the end, and like I said, I still might end up using 3 of these. So we'll see. I'm going to use my trim that I have here, okay, and I like this, but what I don't like, and I think it might be hard to see, let me get that on my hand, is when it was trimmed on the edge here, I can see like little pieces of the thread. So I'm actually going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim that down so that it's not visible. Now there's a couple of ways that you can attach this to the base of the crown here. One is that it could be hot glued, and that's definitely an option. Okay, it would be quicker, and on the upside, the glue would help to catch the wire, especially the wire ends, and hold them. So I'm actually going to take this, and I'm going to try. I may end up changing my mind, but I'm going to try using my wire to wire it on around. Okay, and at this point I'm only going with one strand. I may go with two, we'll see. Alright, so I'm going to get a somewhat of a measurement. It might be a little bit longer than I need. And then I'm going to just take my scissors, like I said, and go around and trim off all that. Alright, this should be where we're going to finish making the crown. So I completed this portion of it, and I think when I ended the last time, I said I was going to attach this trim around, and originally I was going to wire it, and then I thought I am going to hot glue it, and in this instance I think the hot glue has worked better than I would if I had done the wiring. And what I did is I went around once here, and then I didn't like the bottom. There were pieces of wire poking up a little bit, so I took it and I went around the bottom, and then I thought, okay, let's add one more. So I did. You can see the second row, and I went around, and it was a little too long, so when I got here to the back I had to trim one piece off and then cut the little threads and glue it in. So it's a little bumpy there, but that would be the back, and so I'm not really concerned about that. That's not the part I want to focus on. So I went away for a couple of days and had other things to do, and when I came back and I looked at the crown and I started thinking about attaching the jewel piece, the centerpiece here, I got to thinking, you know, it looks nice. You put it on there, and I think it's actually a really nice accent for this. It needs just a little more. So I started playing around, and I dug out my tool, and first I went with this kind of an aquamarine, I guess, color, which really matches the wire, but this was too much in matching that it was lost. So then I found my darker blue, and I played around with what I wanted to do, because I didn't want to overwhelm this centerpiece, okay, but I wanted to accent it a little bit. So I played around with it some, and I think the idea I've come up with is I'm going to pick the front part of where I'm going to put it, and I decided that I was going to put it here, because if you look right here where my finger is, it has a little bit of bling, and the spire is a little higher. So I'm going to attach this right about like that, okay? But I decided that I was going to take a little bit of the tool, and I cut off a little piece, and I knotted it in the middle, okay? And then I cut the ends, and I'm going to actually put that on first, and then I went and I found these are wedding pearls that I got at Hobby Lobby, and they're just the pearls on the yard, by the yard, and these are an Aurora Borealis. I tried some different colors. I had a cream, I had, I think, a plain white. This one I think works because I have some beads here that have that kind of Aurora Borealis look. So then I took this and I cut 3 strands, and I just did this because I want to see if I like it. And if I like it, I will cut 3 more, and it's just 5 of the beads. So what I was thinking of doing was attaching the tool, okay, which you can kind of see that, and then I would put the 3 strands here and then put this on top of it, okay, just to give it a little more oomph. I'm going to take the beads and I'm going to run them around the bottom in between these 2 jeweled trims that I put on. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is I want to get this attached, and I have decided that this is going to be my center, okay, and that's my tallest spire, so it's going to go in here. I think to attach the tool I'm going to use a little bit of wire, so let me cut a small piece of that out here, and I'm just put wire through the middle of the tool, little tool piece I made. I'm sticking the wires through, and then I'm going to twist and bring them around, and the ends of this will be buried under the bead that I have here, so I'm not worried about those ends poking out. Okay, so I did use the wire on that, okay, and it gives me a little bit of a base to glue things on. So I am going to glue, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to glue those. So I'm going to just put a little dab, And I think at this point that if I don't like what I've come up with, I'm going to be able to back out of it and go another route. But so there we go with that. Actually, I'm liking that. I'm going to cut 3 more of these, and all I did is I cut them as 5. I used 5 of the beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, can we count is the question. So I'm up in my craft room, and I do have my door open to my balcony so that my dog and cat can go outside. So you might hear in the background, you'll hear some traffic. We don't get a lot. I live in a very quiet neighborhood. But if you're lucky, you might actually get to hear some of the turkeys talking or a doggy barking. Okay, there we go. I've got those on. All right, I think I'm liking that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this on. Now the thing with this on the back is it is a bead, and you can see that it has a little raised edge right here with holes through it. So I'm going to make sure that I get a good adhesion when I glue it. So I'm probably going to put my glue right along the edge here and the edge here, and maybe a little dab in the middle that will kind of catch on the tool. Okay. Oh, that's coming together really nicely. I like that. And, okay. See that one? Can we get it to go a little more up is what I want. There we go. All right. Oh, my. That's coming together pretty nicely. Okay. That gives that a little more of a focal point. You can kind of, focus on that a little more. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my beads up, and you can hear my doggy out there. She sees something. Chrissy, come on. Good girl. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to take the beads on the spool, and I'm just going to go around here, and I'm going to start in the back and just go around, and I believe that will be the last thing I add to the crown. And then I will take some still pictures so that hopefully there's not any glare on it. We can get a better picture of what I've done. I hope that the tutorial hasn't been too random and that you've been able to make sense of some of it. I would encourage you to try it. It's a fairly simple project to do. I think from beginning to end, I think it probably took me about 4 hours. It might take you a little longer the first time around. I glue this around, take some still pictures, do a little editing, and hopefully we'll get this up on YouTube and you'll have found it worth your while to watch. I thank you for taking the time to do that. I would encourage you to subscribe. And hopefully I'll have some other great videos I'll be putting up on things that I like to do. All right, thank you.